Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take on the miniatures I've been painting for the games we cover here on the channel. And I haven't been painting that much the last little while. I've been going pretty heavy on it the past month, so I took a little bit of a break, didn't paint as much. So there isn't that many miniatures to talk about today, although we do have quite a few things on the table to talk about. And there is sort of a theme because half of the miniatures on the table are 3D printed. And 3D printing is just coming leaps and bounds in terms of quality, so you'll see 3 examples of pretty recent quality 3D prints that I've been working on. But we have some, I guess technically 40k, some Kill Team, some Warcry, some Necromunda, and Crisis Protocol and Halo Flashpoint. So a lot to talk about today. So let's start with a miniature I have had sitting for a long time. This was originally just Games Workshop's generic, here is a Space Marine captain in Phobos armour, but he has since become most notably known as Captain Akaran from Space Marine 2, the video game, and I think he's the captain of the 2nd company or 4th company, whatever company is in that video game. So this is the miniature that they used for the basis of that character represented in the game. So this miniature's kind of retroactively been made into, yeah, this is Captain Akaran. So I've had him sitting for a long time. I didn't really have a reason to paint him up because I don't play 40k anymore. I can't remember what box he was originally included in, but that's the reason I have him. And I just did my old classic Ultramarines painting method, really. Started with the blue spray paint that Citadel does. I then used, I think it's called Drakenshade blue, they're kind of darkish bluish wash. I did a dry brushing of Calgar blue, and then for the other colours we've got a little bit of Blood Angels red. Oh, the only difference is I decided I wanted to try out the Redemptor gold for the trim, for the Aquila on his chest, for the sword hilt, that kind of stuff, and the bone he's got dangling there next to his thigh. And I actually do like that better than all the other golds I've tested for Ultramarines over the years, like Balthazar Gold, Gehenna Gold, or Nazdrag Yellow in terms of using a contrast paint. I think Redemptor Gold probably fits best of all those ones I've tested. And for his skin tone, I originally used Guilliman Flesh, didn't like how it looked, so I went over it with Army Painter's normal just flesh tone, Barbarian Flesh I think it's called. Black Templar for the bolt gun, Lead Belcher Silver for the silver parts. Camel Cloak is Basilicanum Grey with a little bit of Grey Seer on top and then Nuln Oil on top of that. And I think that about covers it. Very fun model. I didn't try him for the longest time because it's got lots of little bits to pick out and I find those difficult. Oh, I used Dryad Bark for his belt straps as well, for where those are visible. And he is supposed to have patterns on his helmet, but I didn't want to try and do those, which he's got his helmet on his belt there. I did not bother with those because I didn't want to risk the attempt. But yeah, fun model, and it's been a little while now since I've painted an Ultramarine. I haven't done that since the Angels of Death starter set for Kill Team, which I guess wasn't that long ago. But no plans in the future to be doing any more. I hope he was in focus for most of me blathering there. Again, this is a little bit of an awkward angle now with this new setting I'm using, but hey, Captain Akaran, done. And speaking of Kill Team, let's talk about getting another one of the Nemesis Claw done. This is the one who gets a special weapon, so you can have him with a plasma gun or the melta gun that I have modelled him with, because that just seems like the de facto best choice for him, honestly. And there is a third option, I can't remember what it is. What other special weapon could it be? It's not a rocket launcher because one of the other guys has the rocket launcher. Melta gun, plasma gun, it's not gravity gun. I don't remember. There's a third option, but I've forgotten offhand what it is. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so I've already talked at length about how I've painted up the Nemesis Claw, so I don't really need to rehash that. You can go back a couple of videos and see, but this is just as a matter of note. Hey, there's one more done. That leaves the 3 generic warriors. I've actually just made a start on them for the sake of getting them done, because then I'll only consider the box done when those are done, even though you would never use your basic bolt gun guys in the Nemesis Claw Kill Team ever. There's no reason to. Oh, dog jump scare. It is spooky season. I suppose it's okay for you to do it this time anyway. That said, I probably will use them at some point just to annoy people who try hard the game, which is basically everyone. But yeah, that is one more done. Metal guns are rare in Kill Team because they're very powerful. So he will be very effective, I'm sure. Haven't used him yet from memory, I think. And in relation to Kill Team, just again as a matter of note at the back here, I had one bit of unpainted terrain for Gallowdark. It was just one of these wall sections that wasn't required the one time we've done it thus far. Talked at length about the video guide I used to paint these. I regret it because of how messy they are in terms of trying to put them together and whatnot, but in terms of visual style I do like them. But again, just as a matter of note for keeping a correct tally for what I've painted by the end of the year when it rolls around, that is Gallowdark now done. That is completely done. Well, I'm sure we'll see it again at some point in the future, but not that often because putting it together was an absolute nightmare. So next you're probably thinking, hey, did you forget something? Isn't there usually models on top of these? So this is the debut of something from Necromunda on the channel. Isn't that great? Look at it. Look at Necromunda being represented here by 2, 4, 6, 7 bases. Isn't that amazing? The reason I did that is because Necromunda comes with these lovely like detailed bases. They're not just flat black like your standard 40k or Warcry miniatures. So because they looked special, I thought, well, there was two reasons. One, they look special, so I thought I'm going to paint these separately before I do the miniatures. And the other part is it's the Delac house that I'm painting. They're all kind of wearing long trench coats and they actually stand upright for the most part by themselves. So they don't need to be on the base or anything like that. So I figured I'll paint those separately. I'll try out the bases. I want to test some stuff. I looked around for video guides and then kind of took one and adapted it my own way. And I'm kind of happy with how those turned out in terms of just making grimy Necromunda floors for the Hive world. So I'll show you a close-up of a few of them as I talk, hopefully not with too much light blaring. I spray painted them all silver to start with. Was it silver? I think it was. Either way, they definitely had silver put on them. Then I used a mixture of Imperial Fist Yellow and the Black Legion to do the warning stripes that have on most of them been kind of obscured by what I did after that, which was to use Army Painter Rust. Heavy dry brush because Necromunda is not a clean Hive world city, or planet rather, filled with Hive cities that are all mucky and horrible. And then I applied a mixture of, well, I think I mostly used Nuln Oil, but in between the gaps I put a little bit of Agrax or Shade. I think Nuln Oil got the job done. I think the other wash was a bit unnecessary. And then just Abaddon Black for the outer edges when, well, I haven't done that part yet, but once the model is done. I like doing that last because that's kind of like the full stop. It's like, okay, the model is done now. The base has a painted rim. So I haven't done that part. That's why they're just the silver. Oh, actually, you know what? That probably means I started with spray painting them black. Yeah, you know what? I think that's what I did, and then I applied the silver on top of that. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. I did these a little while ago. I haven't started painting the actual gang members yet. There's no progress made on that just yet beyond just having them assembled how I want them for a starter gang and spray painting them their base coat. So that's done. But in terms of like actually painting them and experimenting with how I want to paint the Delac, not happened yet. I also wish they were pronounced Delacue because I feel like that's more regal sounding and more like Spymaster sounding because that's who they are. Like they're spies and stuff and assassins. They appealed to me the most of the main Necromunda gangs. But that is my strategy going forward for how I'm going to do the bases. The other clan you get in the starter box that I picked up, which I think is the Hive War box, is Escher, which is all like the punk girls. I'm not sure I'll paint their bases ahead of time. I think they'll have trouble freestanding, and I really hate having to like blue tack them to stuff and you know that kind of thing that you have to do if you want to paint them without the base. So I won't necessarily do it for them. I'll see how I like and how much it matters once I've done like a full model. So you may see these bases, well you will see these bases again in a future part of this series, but a model will be standing on top of it and that'll be the main thing I'm talking about. And very quickly, just before we get on to the 3D printed models, I painted up a test ghoul for the Flesh Terror army. It's already been in a Warcry battle report. It's very small, so it's probably going to struggle a little bit to be in focus. I used the Gut Ripper Flesh contrast paint for the skin tone. The bones are all Skeletal Horde. The sort of clothing he's wearing to hide his shame is I think I used Wildwood for this one. It was that or Garagag Sur. I think it was Wildwood though. And then Nuln Oil over everything. His eyes are Bal Red. The rock he's holding is Basilicanum Grey. and that's just Storm Fiend on the base, on top of that AK concrete technical paint that I use for most things. So he was the first test miniature of a batch of 10, or 9, or no, maybe 8 technically, because one of them gets built as kind of like a special one who's got a different skin tone. So I'm going to be tackling him. You'll probably see him next time actually. I think he's pink, which is, or like just very slightly pink pale. So that'll be an interesting skin tone if I attempt it. We'll see. I do want him to stand out from these regular guys because he is a hero miniature for Warcry. So we'll see. But yeah, there's a matter of note. That is one little itty bitty guy. He's the equivalent of a Chain Rasp. Like he's just, I think he was 55 points out of 1,000. So they're your filler guys. They're your horde guys if you choose to take that route for a Warcry warband. So yeah, he's just space filler. So now we move on to the 3D printed miniatures I picked up. I didn't print any of these myself, just to be clear. I bought them from Etsy, all 3 of them. And we have 2 here to talk about first because they are stand-ins for Crisis Protocol. In the last video, you saw the Daredevil I picked up, which isn't themed around Marvel Rivals. Daredevil just got added to that, but he's got a very, very different theme because he's an alternative reality Daredevil that went to the place Iron Fist trains. I've forgotten the name of it offhand. Either way, doesn't matter. But I picked these up in that same batch. They are from Marvel Rivals. It is how Magik looks in her base costume from Marvel Rivals, and Star-Lord as well. And this is actually my preferred look for Star-Lord. I think they really hit it out of the park with his basic costume design. Not so much on any of his other costumes they've added since, but that base one I really, really like. And it's not just because it's blue. And if you go back 2 videos, I painted up Jeff the Land Shark as he appears in Marvel Rivals, and I think of all the 3D printed stuff I've painted, that one turned out the best. I was quite happy with how Jeff turned out. These 2, it's kind of like, but yeah, they've got a lot of intricate detail, which is not my strong suit. But here we have Magik. I still think this turned out better than the official Crisis Protocol miniature for Magik. I get what they were going with. Like, it's a pretty cool pose. It's just there's not enough detail on her, and it's more about the swirls of her jumping out the floor, and it makes her look very small. Now I will say I think this 3D printed miniature is a little out of scale, like just a little bit too large, but I think I'd prefer that to the alternative, which is the official miniature. In terms of what I did, I once again cracked out the Army Painter Barbarian flesh tone, but I did non-oil over the parts on the legs, most of it, because she's meant to have like torn netting there. So that is my attempt at making that a reality. There is meant to be a line of flesh there. I know it looks like I kind of missed part of her black armor. There is actually a cut in the armor there where her skin tone's meant to show. I think I made it too thick, but I couldn't really tidy it to my liking. So I quit while I was, well, not ahead, but I quit while I was where I was at the time I quit. Let's put it that way. Her hair is Agros Dunes. I also used the same for Quill's hair that we'll see in a second. Imperial Fist Yellow for her sword, with Black Legion for her armor, and I can't remember which color I used. I think it's Luxian Purple or Genestealer Hide for the little gem in her sword. But I like Magik's design for a Marvel Rivals, her base design. I think they took her classic comic costume, which is what Crisis Protocol uses for their official miniature as well, and I just think they made it look better, just nicer, less basic. And I never did like how the Magik miniature for Crisis Protocol assembled. I felt like it was a bad assembly, and it led to like it not looking great. A lot of visible mold lines, a lot of joints visible. Like it just wasn't as good as it could be. I hope they one day take a stab at doing a better official one. Like maybe if they do like a Phoenix Force, and they'll have to do Magik because she's one of the Phoenix Force 5. So if they do like a version of her with that, they could do that really cool. And I think they've improved since. Like there's definitely some bad Crisis Protocol official miniatures, Bucky being the worst, but like the Howling Commandos being like they're worse than Magik. It's just personal preference. I saw this and thought, wow, it's the Marvel Rivals look for her. That's a cool design. I like playing as her, although they nerfed her into the ground when I was still playing, so kind of stopped. But either way, she's really cool, and you'll hopefully see this whenever another Crisis Protocol game happens. I'm not sure when, but I'll definitely make room for Magik in that, because I actually like how she plays in Crisis Protocol as well. Like she's neat with all her portaling. She never seems to do super great, but that's besides the point. Speaking of not doing super great, the Guardians of the Galaxy in general are not great in Crisis Protocol unless you have the OP what's he called? Not Ghost Rider, but the Galaxy version. I've forgotten what he's called. Cosmic Ghost Rider. But I hate that miniature as well, so I will not be running them ever with that. But we have Peter here, and I know I mentioned at the top of the video, we're like, oh hey, we're going to talk about just how great 3D printing quality has improved. I'm hoping that, like, look past the paint jobs and you can just tell that for yourself. Especially if you go back a long way. Like, I've been buying 3D prints of miniatures on and off for years, and I'm just thinking back to when Crisis Protocol first came out. I bought like a couple of Iron Man alternative sculpts, and just how rubbish they were compared to the quality of these are so much better. And it is just down to the quality of printer used. Switching from filament to pure resin as well also helps for sure. But anyway, in terms of paint job, Black Legion for the black parts. I used Talassar Blue for his jacket, non-oil over the top after applying some grey sear to try and pick out the white stripes. I used Redemptor Gold for all the gold parts, and I applied Soul Blight contrast paint, the white one, to all this coming off of his jets, and then while it was wet, mixed in some Imperial Fist yellow. I painted the stuff that he's flying away from black because in the video game Marvel Rivals, the Guardians are kind of doing stuff on Clintar, which is the symbiote homeworld, so I'm just trying to fit that theme. I'm actually not sure what they're meant to be as part of the sculpt. They could absolutely be that, they could be something else from Marvel Rivals that I'm just forgetting because I haven't played it for a while, but I just opted to do that and treat it all as like dust covering symbiote stuff. I just realised that those are probably meant to be stones at the back there, but it's fine. It's fine. I like it looking like part of his jet fumes are just going everywhere. So this cool model, absolutely excellent quality print. My paint job is, it's my paint job, so it's not super great, but I actually think he's slightly better scale as well. Like if you compare him to Magic, like Magic I feel like is slightly too large. And she's slightly, like, keep in mind she's spreading her legs and bracing a little bit, so she's not standing at full height. Neither is Peter here either, to be clear. But I think she's slightly misscaled. I think he's basically spot on the base, but both of them are so close that it's not really noticeable. So yeah, two excellent sculpts. Probably not going to pick up any more because Crisis Protocol isn't super popular anyway, and I couldn't find sculpts for some of the other characters I would have liked to get from Marvel Rivals into Crisis Protocol. And last but not least, Keith David's character from the Halo franchise, the Arbiter. Excellent character, and again, not an officially supported model in Halo Flashpoint by Mantic Games. It's kind of surprising he doesn't have a model or specific stats. Please come into focus. But there's a plethora of 3D printed models you can make of the Arbiter and use for yourself. The main ones you'll find on eBay or Etsy are a choice of like 10 different poses. You can have them dual wielding, you can have them shooting a weapon, no sword, you can have them in different poses. This felt the most natural to how he's mostly in the games, so I picked this one. It's also the hardest pose to track down, but this one was always out of stock on eBay anytime I checked, but I found a person on Etsy who prints to demand. So this is the classic pose, basically the same kind of pose as the Chief. And yeah, this was actually a really quick one to paint up because of the nature of the Arbiter's armor, basically just being a chunk of silver. So he was based in Grey Seer to start with. I went over everything on him with a Black Templar. I did a heavy dry brushing of Leadbelcher Silver, and then I did on top of that a second dry brushing of Necron Compound. Then I did a dry brushing of the light blue. The light blue Citadel paint, but I don't remember the name of it. Just any light blue would do. I did that. Then I used a mixture of Talassar Blue and Asherman Blue on the sword, contrast paints. I then also loosely applied Asherman Blue to his armor as well, on top of what I'd done already to strengthen the blue glow in certain places, like the leg here if it's close to the sword, etc. And that created the kind of reflection that I was looking for from the sword glowing next to him. I see one of my dog's hairs there, that's unacceptable. The base was snakebite leather with just grass tufts on top, like I was doing for the Chief and the other Spartans that I've painted thus far as well. So he's a stand-in miniature at present. You can just have him represented by, like, here's an elite with a sword and just it's the Arbiter. There's probably fan cards you could choose from as well, but I just wanted the Arbiter represented because, hey, it's Keith David and he was cool in the Halo games that he was in. And he does tower over the Chief, as he should do, because the elites are tall in general, and then the Arbiter is really tall. So he is appropriately sized on that base. He's very large, but he's meant to be, because he was a tall guy. So, yep, that is another Halo Flashpoint guide down. I don't know if there will be any more Halo Flashpoint on the channel in regards to battle reports, unless I really get the itch to do it. The viewer verdict did not do well, but I'll certainly keep painting up the Spartans as and when I get the urge, because I quite enjoy painting the Spartans that I've done thus far, and the elites were fun too. Don't have to bother picking up the brute boxes or anything, but anyway, I'm digressing. This was also a 3D print. It is amazing quality in terms of just spot on getting the Arbiter's armor and how it looks, because it doesn't look like normal elite armor. Like, it is a unique set of armor, and they got all the rivets in the wrist guards and the feet where they should be. Like, super impressive 3D printed model there. So yeah, I'm very happy with this one of the 3 that I've shown you today. I'm sure I managed to ramble for a long time, even though I didn't have as much to show you this time. I was going to apologise for that, but hey, we still managed to talk quite a bit about stuff. I usually aim to have like at least 10 models to talk about, not including stuff like, you know, bases are a bit of a weird thing to include, or scenery, depending on how much scenery there is. But yeah, as the cold weather sets in, as the winter depression sets in, it's hard to stay motivated, so I'll try and fit in these as and when I can to show off miniatures being painted, but I'm not sure if we'll stick to the one every 2 weeks over the winter season. We'll see. I might get a sudden burst of energy, who knows. But next time you can probably expect to see the final 3 Nemesis Claw with just the bolt guns and chainsword, bolt pistol, that kind of thing. They'll get done. I'm hoping to have at least one Delac painted to do a test miniature for Necrons. Necromunda. Sorry, I was thinking ahead to potentially painting the Tomb World box, which might happen. You might also see some more ghouls or just the Flesh Tear course in general, because I want to paint up those for Warcry. Probably not going to see any Crisis Protocol unless I end up picking up the newest releases or some more Spider-Man themed releases. I don't think most of them look good, unfortunately. I don't think they're bad or anything. It's just a lot of their poses are just very lackluster, and they're all such small characters. You look at them and then think, well, you're charging that much and they're so basic looking, and I could go get a 3D print that looks so much better. And it's a hard ask. That's all I'm saying. It's a hard ask. If you want to show me what you've been painting, feel free to do so. You can do so on Blue Sky, that's linked in the description box, or you can just show the Discord. You can show me and everyone else in there if you want, and if you need a link, just stop by when I'm streaming on Twitch or my gaming channel on YouTube, and I'll happily provide you with one. And you can come in and you can show off what you've been painting. There's a lot better painters than me who share their miniatures every so often. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe, support the series that you want to see more of, and I'll try and oblige. And I will see you in about 2 weeks or maybe a bit longer with some more miniatures to blather about. Until then, ta-ta for now.